So today it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Abisola Balogun-Katung, who is a social care research fellow and research associate within the Population Health Science Institute at Newcastle University. Abisola has had some recent victories when it comes to funding applications, so congratulations, Abisola. And she's going to share with us some top tips and insights into applying for funding with collaborative multidisciplinary teams. I'm really interested to hear about your insights, so I'll now pass over to you, Abisola. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cassie, for that introduction. So I'll just... So yes, as Cassie said, I would be reflecting today on applying for funding within a multidisciplinary collaborative team and just sharing practical tips and insights. So I am a social care research fellow and a research associate, but I think most relevant to this talk is that I don't know if I should, but I also consider myself an early career researcher, although I'm now 8 years postdoc. And I do want to acknowledge that a lot of you on this call may be at different stages of your early career researcher trajectory. Some of you may be early, and some of you may be like me, early and more experienced, and straddling between early and mid-career stage. But I hope that we can all pick at least one thing from this talk that you can implement in your day-to-day. So, in just thinking around what you need or what should be considered when applying for funding, I think a good starting point would be to consider if this is the right funding opportunity for yourself. And so I think this is a very important first stage before starting the application process. You need to consider whether the application or the funding opportunity suits your career stage or academic profile. So are you trying to further your training, perhaps, or begin that path towards independence, or fund a specific research project? And I'll just give you a quick reflection. Really early on after my PhD, I worked on a range of projects, and I just felt like I didn't really have any specific area that I could call mine. And then there was no specific expertise. I just worked on mental health projects, criminology, just different projects, clinical academia. And so what I really wanted was to hone a skill or hone an area where I could call my own. And so when I came to Newcastle University just over 2 years ago now, I started doing social care research and I loved it. So I thought, yeah, okay, this is where I would start my career, because up until then, I wasn't thinking about, applying for funding or anything, because I was like, I really need to find a specific area. And so, yeah, I looked around, and a lot of my colleagues, Haley would be smiling there, because I didn't realize at that point that a lot of them were further away. Well, I did realize, but I didn't consider that a lot of them were further away in their research careers. So they were at the point where they were applying for the NIHR Advanced Fellowship. And you know what I did? I said that was what I was going to go for, the NIHR Advanced Fellowship. And so I just went quite naively into that. And then after talking to a few colleagues and also scrutinizing the funders page and guidance documents, I realized very quickly that perhaps I should give it some more time, because considering things like my CV, the strength of my CV in terms of my publications, and even the money or funding that I had under my belt, it wasn't as competitive as it would be if I was going to apply for a fellowship or at that level. So I decided against it, but then I went for the faculty fellowship, which was unsuccessful. But yeah, it was similar sort of issues that was with that one as well. So I ended up just going for specific research funding. But then other things that would help you decide or determine if it's the right funding opportunity would be, are you able to sort of develop your research interest further? Do you have people around you, not just people, but the right people that will be able to offer you support? And these are the things that I had and were quite helpful to me. Just moving on, if I can find my mouse. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the what can help you with this decision is for the funder website. So the funder websites and web pages, I have hyperlinked here. Welcome NIHR and MRC. There's many more, as you would know, but you can find a wealth of information on the funder websites and about like the eligibility, your eligibility, whether the scheme really matches your goals, and the timeline for application and the application deadline, just information that would help you. There's no point, I mean, to me, I'll say in a probably a gentler way, I wouldn't advise applying for a collaborative funding particularly like a month, within a month, because I think you need a lot more time than that for collaborative funding opportunities. So it's just things like that that you need to consider, and you can find all that information on the funder websites. Another thing would be to speak to funders, colleagues, mentors, RSS. I know some funders would have support contact on their websites that you could just call and like find out whether you're eligible. Some of them have like this pre-proposal submission thing where you don't actually like get reviewed. Your application doesn't get reviewed, but they can give you a sense of if it meets, if it's within their remit. So here, the RSS is the Research Support Services, and they provide support to researchers to develop applications to national peer-reviewed research programs. So like the NIHR programs, your UKRC, national health and care charities as well. And they are an excellent source of support, advice, information, and also mentors. So mentors are everyone should identify a mentor. I think that would be my advice very early on, because what the RSS and mentor would help you do is that they can help you refine your topic or project idea so that it is worth being funded. So it's worthy of being funded. And the more people you talk to, the very early on in the process, obviously, the wider the range and more interesting the ideas that you come up with. But I would caution here and say you have to be careful because, as the saying goes, too many cooks spoil the soup. And so, what you don't want to do is have many conflicting ideas. You know, all the ideas are so interesting and you don't know what to do with them. So, you have to be really tactical about your advisory team, is what I would say. So you could also seek advice from colleagues who have, for example, served on funding panels or submitted similar sort of applications in the past. Another thing that's quite helpful is seeking inspiration from previously successful and unsuccessful applications. And I think the closer you can get to what you want to do in terms of like your funder or the funding scheme, the better for you. So, and then finally, attend funder or funding events or workshops. So there's one that I've seen recently, getting those grants and how to prepare yourself for funding and writing your proposal. So I think things like that. So they have things like preparing yourself for research funding, developing a fundable research idea. These are things that I attended and were quite helpful for me. So the next thing, after you've considered, oh yes, my topic, or this is the right funding application, funding opportunity for me, you've talked to colleagues, mentors, RSS, what next? So I think within collaborative applications, right, the next thing would be obviously to identify your collaborators. And There's a saying that goes, um, if you want to go far, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. And I think that that encapsulates perfectly the idea of collaboration. So you need to think about getting the right mix of expertise within your team. Before I go on to tips about tips for identifying collaborators, I would just quickly run through the benefits in the important benefits, I think. So obviously, collaboration gives opportunities for new perspectives and skills. You have a range of expertise within the room, and so people can contribute their perspectives and skills. Um, it also offers the opportunity to share expertise and build and widen your network. And for a lot of early career researchers, it could be, especially earlier on in their trajectory, it could be like, what do I have to offer? I don't have any expertise to share, but I want to assure you that if you do reflect, there is something you can bring to the table. It could be like some methodological expertise, maybe some like nuanced ideas, or, there is always going to be something. It does also increase productivity and efficiency because when you have different people doing different things on a project, yeah, you get it done faster. And then impact. So with impact, this is about leveraging on your collaborative team and on their expertise, particularly if you have much more senior colleagues on your team. I know, like with the three schools funding scheme, it is a requirement for you to get representation from all three schools, or at least two of the three schools. So is it primary school, the primary school, or the prevention or social care, you need to have representation. And so one of the things that you could demonstrate is that you would, like I've done that, leverage on like the network of my senior colleague on the team. And then, yeah, I could increase my impact that way. So now going into the tips for identifying collaborators. The first one I would say is leverage on your existing network. So speak to colleagues, peers, mentors within your field, and these people may have complementary skills or even divergent skills and connections to other academics within your institution or outside your institution. And if they know you and your work, they are more likely to facilitate that connection and do an introduction. My mentor, who is like a star mentor, Ruth McGovern, a lot of you on this call may know her. She's very supportive of me, and literally, like, because I had that pre-existing mentorship relationship with her, she was able to support me in building my network and sharing her contacts. So on all the projects that I've applied for, all my collaborators have literally come from her, which well, I'll say 90% of them have come from her, which is like, just ace. So wait, oh, sorry. So the next thing would be to attend conferences, workshops, and networking events. So you could use these to make connections with researchers who share similar or different interests, but work in complementary or even different disciplines as well. So I recently attended, or yeah, last year, an early career research event with Cassie. And at the event, I'm connected with people doing work in a range of different areas. And it was really interesting because, that connection, I was able to connect. I'm in social care research, and there were like people doing like statistics, just different methodological areas that could make your research project more interesting. And quite linked to attending conferences is engaging with community or voluntary sector organizations, charities. And this is one way, like one of the ways of engaging with them would be to attend their events. Um, anything that is done, just make those connections with them very early on as well. And then use online platforms and social media to your advantage. So this is something that I did more when I was a PhD candidate than now, but you use like ResearchGate, LinkedIn, Twitter, or X. Um, and these are great ways to promote your work and seek collaboration as well. So you can follow accounts or people with similar research interests, and just start like topical conversations. Yeah. And then you should also start to build these relationships very early on. So you shouldn't wait until the funding deadline to start looking for collaborators. And this process should be started as early as possible. So you need to build trust and understanding, and that takes time, as we would all know, especially if you're going by yourself and if you don't have like the benefit of someone putting in a good word for you. So I think most or very important, I would say, is offering or the offer of mutual benefits. You should ideally you should be able to highlight clearly how the collaboration will benefit um, your collaborators and not just your project, because people are more likely to be willing and motivated to collaborate if they see clear benefits of the collaboration. So would it be like their ability to sort of access funding? This would be important for like maybe voluntary sector organizations or any other collaborator, or would it be like the opportunity for co-authorship, or perhaps like they could learn or develop a new skill? So these are things that and tips that you could use for identifying collaborators. Is everyone still there? Because I can't see everybody. I'm just talking to my screen. Yeah.
We're all
So,
still here, Abisola. Carry on.
okay, good, good. Yes. So the next thing would be tailoring your application to the funders' priorities. And I would say the first thing is understanding the funder's priorities, and that can be done quite easily or not, by thoroughly reviewing the funder's goals and priority areas. This could be found on like their websites, for example, or by attending information sessions or webinars that they host. I know the NIHR hosts quite a few information webinars. And so the funders are more likely to support projects that are closely aligned to their objectives. So you read the call for proposals very carefully and read through the guidance notes as well. So you use the funder's language. Again, if you can get your proposal or application as close to what the funder's objectives are, the more likely you would be to be successful. And so there's a technique called mirroring. And when you mirror, that just means that you use the terminology and phrases used in guidance documents or on the websites. So the use of these show that you understand the funder's vision and objectives. For example, if the funder emphasizes capacity building or collaboration, weave that into your proposal. So, and then emphasizing partnerships and different team member expertise is really important. So if you have members on your team with public health, social care, or specific methodological expertise, you can showcase this and how your team brings them together in a complementary way. So you mentioned partnerships with also your charity organizations as well, non-academic collaborators. And then you finally follow the guidance meticulously. So you adhere strictly to funder formats, word counts, submission requirements, to avoid outright rejection, which can be quite disappointing. And a strong proposal, you may have a strong proposal, right? But it may be 100 words above the word count. And a very particular reviewer can pick up on this and say, and get really annoyed by it. So it's always good practice to sort of double check your proposal for errors, using specified like sort of headings and templates, which could be found on the guidance notes or on the funder websites as well. And most importantly, I think it's important to ensure that the budget aligns with the funder's restrictions. So if the funder says the budget limit is 200,000, yeah, it's 200,000 pounds and nothing more. So I remember with my RPSC, which my most recent funding application, I was working on it till like the very last second, just to get it within the funding funder's budget specification. And so that also highlighted to me a lesson to start early in the process and allocate that time to be able to make like those adjustments and make sure that everything is okay. So a bonus point, give enough time for revision and feedback. If you're working with a collaborative team, you're going to have people that are busy on your team, have limited time. So you want to give them and respect their time as well. So you want to give them enough time in advance to allow for multiple drafts and revisions. A good amount of time, rule of thumb, would be about 2 weeks. That's how much I would give. I don't always give 2 weeks. Sometimes I give less time, but yes, lessons learned. So yes, and then seek feedback from mentors, colleagues, or previous grant reviewers to refine your proposal. And then also anticipate, unlike me, the logistical challenges so that you're not spending your last final minutes or on reviewing those and making sure that they are complying with the funder's requirements. So you address all of these early on. So we're going to go into the activities now. You all should have received a document. I can't, did everybody receive that? Can't see. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the first activity is a 10-minute activity, reviewer role play. And so within that document, you would have an excerpt from a proposal, right? And so the scenario is a research team is applying for funding to evaluate the impact of a community-based intervention designed to reduce loneliness amongst older adults in urban areas. Their proposal has been drafted, but it needs refining. Your task is to review the proposal against the review criteria and discuss within your groups. So I think the breakout rooms have been set up so people would be allocated to their different breakout rooms. And within the time period, I'll just want you to discuss amongst yourselves, highlight the strengths of the proposal, identify areas of improvement against the review criteria, and also suggest revisions to strengthen the proposal. So this is the review criteria: clarity of objectives, methodological soundness, impact and relevance, feasibility, and collaboration. And the idea of this activity is to give you a feel of what reviewers, funders look for. So Cassie, are they going to be split into their breakout rooms now?
Yes, I believe Cheryl is going to randomly put people into their rooms.
Okay.
Yeah, I've set 3, so that will give a is that the size of the group that you would like, about half a dozen people in each room, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have 18 people, 17. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, maybe 3 breakout rooms.
Okay, give me a sec.
So I hope that activity sort of gave you some insight into what like reviewers would be looking for. I did say in the chat, and I hope people saw that people would have to nominate like who would feedback to the team. We're going to give like 5 minutes. I should have said that before we went into the breakout rooms. But would anyone want to start like with the feedback? We can start with room 1.
I think we were room 1, is that right?
Yes, we were room 1. Yeah.
Obviously others, if there's anything I missed, please jump in. I think at a high level we thought that what was there was reasonable. There was alignment with methods, etc., and some quite clear objectives. But what we felt was missing was quite a lot of the detail that we would need for these review criteria. So, for instance, how the sample will be recruited, how many stakeholders, how many focus groups, where they would be. And so without that, we felt we couldn't check things such as how realistic the budget was. We also couldn't see a timeline, so we couldn't check that aspect of feasibility. And although there was some quite nice high-level things around collaboration, again, without that detail, it was hard to assess how genuine and meaningful and realistic that collaboration was going to be.
Sure. Thank you very much, Sarah. Does anyone have anything different to add from room 2?
I think that might have been us in group 2, I'm not sure. But I think very similar, to be honest, with what Sarah had said. I think one of the strengths that we thought from the application was the idea around kind of co-production and working in that multidisciplinary way in terms of having the community organisations. But actually there was needed to be a little bit more information about what that expertise may be bringing from the community organisations. Who are those people? We also thought there was a bit missing around sort of the background and why this was possibly a priority for the older adults. Was there some PPIE work done for the application in terms of thinking about I think we were talking about how we define loneliness. Could some of the older adults think about that in terms of for the application, or is it a part of the co-production? Think about how we measure that. We weren't sure again on the time frame, so it might be an okay budget, but we weren't sure in terms of how long that might actually take. And we kind of identified things around a lack of thinking about impact and how that might get shared as well. I think that's sort of the majority of what we discussed.
Yeah, thank you very much, Cassie. And from the third room.
Yeah, hiya, Abisola. So yeah, we had really similar kind of things from room 3. What we liked was from straight off the title, it was clear that a collaborative approach was being taken, and we thought that is something that always stands out. That is funders are really interested in that. The abstract kind of was written in a way that we thought was quite accessible, and that a lay kind of member could kind of read that and understand it. But then we also kind of said, it's like it's already been said, it was quite hard to see whether everything was achievable or not, because we weren't entirely sure how many people were going to be kind of recruited in there. And similar to what's already said, I think it's really hard with budgets, isn't it? When you're thinking about durations and co-ops and who else you're bringing on board. And if you're funding the PICE involvement, in line with an NIHR, for instance, that can take up a huge kind of part of your budget just on PPI work alone. But we didn't know how long the project was for, so we were questioning that. And we also just thought about the PPI and impact. You couldn't really tell from what was there about how would they been involved, or if they'd been involved in co-producing what the research looked like, or the methods, and then what was the value to that lived experienced individuals at the end of it.
Yeah. No, thank you, Hayley, and thank you for everyone that has spoken. I think like you have all like highlighted the major issues where I think like this could have been sent as, you know, the pre-proposal to like the funder to determine whether this is within their remit. It was still lacking a lot in detail, and very important detail as well, the timeline. the budget breakdown, the recruitment strategy, things like that, that would have really strengthened the pre-proposal, even though, yeah. So the next activity, I'm just a bit conscious of time, and I know we all have to be out of here at 1. But I've said 10 minutes, but I wonder if we could do this in like maybe 2 breakout rooms and give 5 minutes rather than 15, or I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes. So in your breakout rooms, you're going to practice developing a collaborative proposal. So I've given topics here, and if you could just think around the potential collaborators for this project, draft a collaborative research question, and perhaps if you can, if there's enough time, strategies for effective collaboration in multidisciplinary teams, and then we can come back to the room in exactly 5 to 10 minutes so that we can end on time. Is that okay, Cheryl?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just reallocating the
We could
people
do it.
from one of the rooms so that I've just got 2 rooms now. So just
Okay.
hopefully that should work. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Thank you. Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. So I guess I hope those activities, I apologize that it was quite rushed at the end. I just wanted everyone to finish on time. But I hope that it was really helpful, particularly in one thing that we determined quite quickly within our team was that coming up with a collaborative research question absolutely does not take 1 minute or 2. It takes a long period of time. And I think I can see a few people laughing, but I think you would all agree with that. So you could take the activities back and work on them. Just to get a feel, more of a feel of it. So I think now, do we have time for questions and answers? Let me share more.
We've got literally 1 minute left, Abisola. So I guess if anyone's got a burning, my suggestion, would be if anyone's got a burning question, we could do it now. But obviously, if anybody does have questions that have come up from the session, you can drop an email, and certainly Abisola or myself, I'm sure Cassie would be more than happy to respond to that. But if anyone's got anything right now, do feel free to jump in.
Sorry, Cassie, I don't know, for some reason I'm not able to share my screen any longer. So yeah, it must be because I left the meeting.
I was sharing my screen earlier, so it might just be that I had still mine on, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, I think I've gotten it back now. So no questions. Obviously, if you have any questions, you can feel free to email me, abisola.balogun@Newcastle. But yes, let me put that on.
Have any questions, I'll end the meeting for everybody and just say thank you so much for everybody for attending and kind of contributing to those interactive sessions, and also a massive thank you to Abisola for sharing her top tips and insights. I found that really, really helpful to kind of put myself in the mind of the reviewer, and just kind of go through somebody else's application and think about it from that perspective, which was really helpful. So thank you. If anybody does want to kind of get in touch with Abisola, then either, Abisola shared our email address there, but get in touch with us or through the Fuse and we'll pass that on. If you would like to share your own research or some kind of event like Abisola's there at an upcoming ELAC seminar, then please also get in touch with us, either us directly if you know us or through the Fuse email, and we'll have that in the future. So thank you, everybody. And that's it from us. So enjoy the rest of your afternoon and have a lovely weekend.
Thanks, Abisola.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.